Okay. All go ahead. Hello?
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Uttar Pradesh Legal Rights Consortium, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to our webinar From Constitution to Courtroom, The Journey of Young Lawyers in Shaping Justice. My name is Adrika Gupta, and I am the State President of the Consortium, and I will be your host for this session. It's a privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker, a true inspiration to aspiring legal professionals. We are incredibly privileged today to have with us a distinguished speaker who embodies the very essence of the topic we are addressing. It is my distinct honor to introduce Mr. Vanaj Vidyan. Mr. Vidyan's achievements speaks volumes about his dedication and excellence in the fields of law. He is a gold medalist from National Law University, Lucknow, a recognition bestowed upon him by none other than the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Beyond his academic prowess, Mr. Vidyan is a dynamic force in the legal field. He is a practicing advocate before the Supreme Court of India. His dedication to youth empowerment and leadership has also been nationally recognized. He was honored by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, as the National Youth Leader Champion 2025. Mr. Vidyan's influence extends to the international arena as well. He was nominated by the Government of India as the official Indian delegate at both the BIMSTEC Youth Summit and the World Bank Youth Summit. His commitment to social justice is evident in his extensive legal aid work with esteemed organizations such as the National Human Rights Commission and the National Legal Service Authority. Furthermore, Mr. Vidyan is a respected scholar who, with his work being published by the prestigious University of Oxford and the London School of Economics. In a sense, Mr. Vidyan is a passionate advocate for justice, working tirelessly at the crucial intersection of law, youth, and leadership. We are truly fortunate to have him share his insights with us today. Before we proceed before we proceed with the webinar, we would be grateful if you could take a moment to fill out the feedback form after the event. The link of this form will be posted in the chat box. Your feedback is highly valuable, and it will enable us to organize such events in future as well. Certificate of participation will also be distributed exclusively to those who fill the form. So without further ado, I invite Mr. Vidyan to take the virtual stage. The platform is yours, sir.
Thank you, Advika. Thank you for that really great introduction. Can somebody confirm if I'm audible and visible both?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 1 second, I'll
Yes,
share
sir,
my
you are
screen.
audible.
Perfect, thank you. 1 second, I'll share my screen. Let me know, please, when the screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
It's perfectly visible, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So once again, I would like to thank UPLRC as well as WICCI, Advika, Kashish, everybody for that introduction as well as for inviting me. It's definitely a privilege to be here. And it's always great to interact with young lawyers and law students. And therefore, when uh, the organization asked me to select a topic, I thought of a topic which would introduce everybody to impact. I think as youth, just as the government says, just as everybody says, and just as Swami Vivekananda said 100 years ago, we have a dynamism, we have an energy. And when we become law students or when we become young lawyers, we have the privilege of carrying on our energy through the legal field. That's what makes us the most perfect. And throughout this session, the aim is to motivate you. The aim is to tell you the various means by which you can have an impact. So without further ado, I would like to start. This is a slide. As you can see, it says the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. And this is a very famous adage that was said by William Shakespeare. But before I proceed, would anybody like to put in the chat box, or you can even go ahead and say, what do you think this means? Like, why do you think Shakespeare said this? Is this because lawyers are evil people? What do you think is the reason that this is such a famous quote? Right. So while you ponder upon that, and I'll be reading your responses in the chat box as they come. The first impression that we have is that okay, lawyers are evil people who thrive on oppressing the poor. They thrive on becoming rich, right? But let's understand the context in which this was said, and it'll turn your understanding of this around. So this is said in the Henry VI Part 2 of his very famous epic, where a revolution is being planned. And the revolution is being planned by villains who want to overthrow a righteous king. And therefore, the first thing that they need to do in order to overthrow the righteous king is to overtake the rule of law. And the only way they can overtake the rule of law is by killing all the lawyers. So therefore, this is how Shakespeare in a very subtle way, points out that the first and the last defenders of the legal system are the lawyers. And this is how I want to take forth this session. And I'll come back to this adage as we conclude. So, we talk about Shakespeare's misconception. We talk about how this quote is often misunderstood, but the context in which it is said makes it very important. Which brings me to the second part about why lawyers and especially young lawyers are important. So, in my interaction with Chief Justice Chandrachud, when I introduced myself to him and I told him that, sir, I'm a lawyer and I intend to practice before the courts of law, he told us of the responsibility that rests on a lawyer. He gave me an example. He said that, Vanaj, think about a matrimonial dispute, or for that matter, think about a family dispute, a property dispute. How does it look like? There's a brother who is fighting a brother. These are people who have grown up together. They trust each other so much. And they come to a point where, because of whatever disputes, they are not talking to each other. They have so much trust
Yeah,
deficit
I feel
between
okay.
they have so much trust deficit between each other while they have grown up together. And even within that trust deficit, who do they choose to sign up the power of attorney for, the wakalatnama for? Their lawyer. When they're not trusting even their own blood, they end up trusting their lawyers more than anybody else. So that is the responsibility that we carry on. And that inspired me, that when Chief Justice said that, that's what inspired me to go ahead and make sure that becoming a lawyer is not just about monetary or material gains, it's about the impact that we. And as young lawyers, we bring a certain energy to the system. And this energy is what I would like to draw upon in this session. So, who this session is for? I would like to make it very clear. Some people look at law as a way of getting into a system where they can reach a certain platform in society, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this session is for people who are not okay with the existing situations. अगर आपका एटीट्यूड है कि चलता है, चलने दो, क्या प्रॉब्लम है, ऐसा ही तो होता है, हम क्यों चेंज करें, ऐसा सबके साथ होता रहेगा, तो आप लॉ की डिग्री लेके कुछ लाइफ में अच्छा जरूर कर लेंगे, बट यू वुड नॉट बिकम द लॉयर दैट यू वर इंटेंडेड टू बी. And therefore, if you want to make a change, if you want to have an impact, I'm sure the next 45-60 minutes would be of use to you. So let's begin, right? We've talked about the role of a young lawyer. We've talked about the energy and creativity that exists within us that somebody who is, let's say, over 35, over 40 may not have. The drive that we have, they may not have that. So throughout this session, I'll try to come up with anecdotes from my life, from life of many successful people. And I'll try to give you impactful examples to show that lawyers and law students have been able to significantly impact their communities. And hopefully we'll be able to derive methods out of how we can do that, and you'll be inspired as well to find out some methods that from today onwards you can use in your daily lives to transform from a law student to a lawyer and hopefully a youth leader as well. The first thing that we should do is legal aid. And let me take a pause. So everybody knows that Article 39 Clause A, Article 39 capital A of the Constitution guarantees legal aid. I'm sure everybody is aware. We're also aware that there's a Legal Services Authorities Act by which district, state, and national legal services authorities are established all over the districts, all over the country. But I'll give you examples from my own experience where I'll highlight the challenges that exist in the present legal system, right? So I've served as the convener of the Legal Aid Committee at NLU Lucknow, which meant that we were supported by the District Legal Services Authority as well as the State and National Legal Services Authority. So within that, we got to do prison visits in the Lucknow Central Jail. And I'll give you some anecdotes from this. So we went inside the Lucknow Central Jail, and I was merely a second year student. I did not have much experience, barely read any CRPC or IPC. I just knew the very basics that I'd prepared during the classes for the prison visits. We go inside, there are the barracks, there are 100 prisoners standing there. Most of these prisoners, they come from very lower socio-economic households. They're not very aware of the legal rights. I go to the first prisoner, I go to the second prisoner, I find out, okay, some of them have been charged for atrocious crimes. Some of them are for petty crimes. Some of them are there because they have not been able to give their bails. I reach the fourth prisoner. He is there for a theft that is committed. Theft back in IPC, I think it was under 376 or somewhere in the theft section. Now within theft, 378, I believe. Within theft, I ask him, your theft is of a very small amount. You would get a bail very easily. Why have you not applied? आपने bail क्यों नहीं लिया? He replied to me, कि सर मेरे वकील ने बताया ये नॉन बेलेबल ऑफेंस है, तो मुझे बेल नहीं हो सकती. And at that point, I realized that the lawyer that he had been provided by the state, because being provided a counsel by the state is a legal right and is a fundamental right under Article 22. I realized कि उसके state के lawyer ने उसको गलत information दिया है, because non-bailable offense does not mean that you cannot get a bail. Non-bailable offense only means that you do not have the right to get a bail from the police, और अगर आप कोर्ट में अप्लाई करोगे तो आपको बेल मिल जाएगी. पर उसको ये इन्फॉर्मेशन ही नहीं थी, और आप गेस करोगे वो कितने साल से वहां पे था. वो 4 साल से जेल में बंद था. He was in prison for 4 years because his lawyer had told him कि आपकी बेल नहीं हो सकती है, non-bailable offense है. And at that point, I realized that the reality of Article 39A is very far to be achieved. The reason that we were sent, that the reason that I had the opportunity to visit the prisons was because we got associated with the legal aid cell of the university. Now, when you get associated with the legal aid cell of a university, and I would recommend all of you who are law students to do that, if the legal aid cell in a university is not active, make sure it becomes active. The reason is that as soon as a legal aid cell becomes active within a university, it becomes a statutory body. It becomes a statutory body within the legal service rules, which are made under the National Legal Services Authorities Act. Which means that whenever you approach the District Legal Services Authority, they are now obligated to support you. और मैं इस स्लाइड में आपको बताऊंगा कि आप वो कैसे कर सकते हो. सो एक बार DLSA, जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट लीगल सर्विस अथॉरिटी है, वो जब आपको सपोर्ट कर देती है बिकॉज यू आर एसोसिएटेड विद द क्लिनिक, now therefore you can ask for a letter from the DLSA कि sir or ma'am, please let us visit the prisons. We want to compile a report which we will then forward to you. So essentially our work was to go to the prisons, find out the prisoners who are deserving of legal aid but have not got the legal aid, and then submit the report of those 50, 100 prisoners that we encountered. These could be women prisoners, male prisoners. Later on, we also went to the child care centers and the juvenile courts. And we would submit these reports to the DLSA. Because understand that district legal services centers, they're extremely burdened with work. They do not have the time to find out the people who require justice. So you can be the bridge. Because आप students हो, आपको prison का experience भी बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. I can promise you it's one of the most enlightening things you will do, going to a prison to help people. और वहां पे जब आप वो एक्सपीरियंस करते हो, आप वो ब्रिज बनते हो बिटवीन द अंडर ट्रायल prisoner who has been languishing and the authorities who can give them justice. It's an extremely satisfying procedure. So what we did in that year was we compiled a report of 50 prisoners. We submitted to the District Legal Service Authority and we kept following up. And within 6 months, 25 of those 50 prisoners were released from prisons. Some of them had completed their tenure in jail but had not been released because of administrative errors. All of them, within 6 months, we got them released. And the remaining 25, we kept doing this work. So we made sure that this became an annual program. And I'm telling you this, that you can make sure that this is done for all of your law schools. All law schools are supposed to have a legal aid cell. All of them are supposed to be supported by the District Legal Services Authority. And it's a great idea. It's a great thing that you can do. And it's extremely satisfying to free people. So that's one part of Article 39A. Second, when you become part of a legal services clinic, which is recognized by the DLSA, you officially become a paralegal volunteer. And if you become a paralegal volunteer in your 4th or 5th year, we are colloquially called as PLVs. And from your 2nd to 3rd year, you are called as a PLV trainee. Now, the benefit of becoming a paralegal volunteer is that you get to sit in a clinic. Now, usually the law recommends that every law school outside of their campuses should have a legal aid cell. So if you ever get to visit Lucknow, if you ever go to RML NLU, the National Law University Lucknow, at the main entrance, there's a large room. And that room has clear signs that this is the legal aid clinic. It is for free legal aid. It is open from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on every day except Sunday. All of this information is provided. And from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., paralegal volunteers, they sit in those clinics. I was a PLV myself, so I sat in those clinics, and people from all walks of life, they would come to the clinic. We would give them legal advice. To some of them, we would give lawyers. To some of them, we would help them in getting their cases transferred. And we are not lawyers, right? But because we are recognized by the DLSA, we can always request the DLSA to allot a state-given lawyer to these people. And that's how, as law students, you can become a bridge and also understand that when you assist a state counsel, a state lawyer, these state lawyers also have a lot of work. So in practice, what they do is they request you only as a student to draft a lot of things. So you'll learn skills like drafting, you'll learn skills like appearing at courtrooms, talking to clients, talking to victims. So that's again an experience which is extremely fulfilling. Thirdly, and this is also not very well known, but paralegal volunteers who are associated with the DLSA are also entitled to an honorarium. So if you're in your fourth or fifth year and you are an established PLV, then you'll also get honorarium from which is a small stipend based on the number of days you sit or the number of works you do. So that's also a part of becoming a PLV. Thirdly, and this is in addition to becoming a paralegal volunteer. So recently, the Ministry of Law and Justice, around 2 years back, they came out with a new program and they call it the Pro Bono Scheme or the Pro Bono Club. And would request all of you who are interested in legal aid, you can go on the website, or you can go on Google, you can simply type Pro Bono Club, and this scheme of the government will come up. So basically, it's like enabling a legal aid cell, but this time you get funding directly from the Ministry of Law and Justice. So every year, rupees 1 lakh is sanctioned to a particular university, which will be used by the pro bono club of that university. This club is supposed to have an election, and 30-40 people from all batches can become a part of it. So this is an extension. If your college does not have a functioning legal aid cell, or you think a legal aid cell would require funding from the university and that would be a long term thing, you can simply request your university to establish a pro bono club. You can be the coordinator, you can talk to the Ministry of Law and Justice and be the middle person between the university and the ministry. And you will get an annual funding of rupees 1 lakh from the Ministry of Law and Justice, which you then have to show the works that you've done. And based on the report you submit, this scheme becomes extended for next year, and next year you'll get renewed funding, right? So the point is that the government is trying to support us. There are so many ways that we can help, and all we need to do is just take a step forward, and you are just one step away. As law students, you're just one step away from all of these enlightening experiences. Thirdly, the benefit that you get from becoming a member of a pro bono club or becoming a member of the legal aid cell is that whenever you take an initiative, you'll always be able to back yourself with credibility and a credible organization. What that means is, I'll give you an example, right? So back during my tenure at my university, there was a small area that touched the boundary of a university that had sort of started developing sewage problems that was had become like a garbage dump. Now, usually, what people do is they post on Twitter or they post on Facebook, and usually nothing happens. Although even that's better than doing nothing and complaining. What we did was, on the university letterhead, where we wrote the legal aid cell of this particular university, established under Article 39A and Legal Service Authorities Act and Legal Service Authorities rules, we drafted the letterhead and we addressed it to all the authorities. We addressed it to the MCD, we addressed it to the mayor, we addressed it to the commissioner, we addressed it to the DM, we addressed it to the SDM. To all of them, we sent a copy, and we also sent a copy to our vice chancellor. And with their permission, we sent this letter across. And you would not believe it, within 5 to 7 days, the entire area was clean. This is also the benefit that you get. And we tried to extend it also. So this was not just something after we saw the success of this program, we extended it towards the entire of the city and tried to extend it to the entire of the district, that if any place have civic problems, they can come to us, we'll verify that, and we'll send off a letter and enable developmental works happening within the district. So again, you're able to do it because you're law students. You can simply quote provisions saying that, okay, the MCD particularly is responsible for this. And if this does not happen, then it can lead to diseases, which would lead to a public health crisis. And therefore, because of this public health crisis building up, we as law students demand immediate redressal under so and so and so provisions. And the government is supposed to act. Fourthly, success stories of camps and community education. Now, this again is something that doesn't necessarily need you to become a member of legal aid cell, but it's still legal and social aid, and law students are extremely well placed to do it. And I'll tell you how. So, you're all aware of the right to education, under which Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan functions. There's also a provision under the Right to Education Act, wherein every private school is required to have at least 25% students coming from the lower socio-economic standards. Now, a lot of private schools, they don't really implement it. The sadder part is that a lot of people from underprivileged sections are not aware that they have a right to study in the big schools of their city as well. So there are two things that we did under the project of community outreach and community education. The first one was trying to get people admitted, trying to get the deserving students admitted through the RT. All you need to do here is first tell the kids or tell their parents that your child can study in a better school. Second, you can help them with the forms. See, these people, they're very afraid. People who come from socio-economically backward standards, they're very afraid to call authorities. They're very afraid to approach them. So you can talk on their behalf. You can call the basic education adhikari of the district who is of the area, who is essentially responsible for the RT implementation. So you can simply call them up, say कि ये बच्चा है और हम चाहते हैं इसका admission हो. And that person will tell you कि आप यहाँ से form download कर सकते हैं, नहीं तो form online भी available होता है. And you can help the person fill the form and then follow up, ensure these applications are filled. And ladies and gentlemen, when I was at NLU Lucknow, we got 5 students admitted like this just in the tenure of 6 months. ये idea हमें बहुत late आया तो इस time उसे implement नहीं कर पाए. But it's still going on and I'm sure it's doing well. So 5 students, we got them admitted. And now understand the impact, right? Like आपके लिए क्या था? आपने फॉर्म भरे, 4-5 कॉल किए, 2 महीने लगे रहे, उनका एडमिशन हो गया. पर जिस बच्चे का एडमिशन हुआ, वो फर्स्ट से 8th स्टैंडर्ड तक he'll get free studies in a really good school. There's a chance that you might have changed their life forever, the family's life forever. That person could end up becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or something extraordinary, all because you made sure that he got education. और उसमें आपका कुछ नहीं लगा, आपके कोई पैसे नहीं लगे. So that's one thing that you can do. Ensure that RTA becomes implemented. The second thing that we did was we called the basic education adhikari and we told them that we want to take outreach sessions within these schools. उनको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, उनको बस उन्होंने बोला ठीक है 7 बजे सुबह 10 बजे इस स्कूल में आ जाना, सुबह 12 बजे उस स्कूल में आ जाना, उनको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती. All we had to do was send a letter to him. He reverted, okay, this is your slot. We went to these schools and we did this both in urban areas. So we did this within the district of Lucknow, both in urban areas as well as rural areas. So you may be aware near Lucknow, there's this area called Malihabad. We did this in the rural areas of Malihabad as well. What we did was the members of the committee, they prepare topics which are not taught in rural areas. So issues such as menstrual hygiene, issues such as domestic violence, issues such as good touch, bad touch. Extremely important issues, but nobody talks about them. And when they're not, sex education is not a part of urban curriculum, it's definitely not a part of rural curriculum. So we gave this outreach in the rural areas. And it did not take much from us. All we had to do was prepare a presentation, prepare some videos, take that laptop or a projector with us to the schools and make sure that we stream those things, taught those things to the kids. And these kids could be anybody from class first to class 8th. Be sensitive, you take some chocolates, the kids like you play some videos, you dance with them later on, they really like it, but you educate them about something. And you would not believe. So when we took a session on domestic violence where we told that men and women are equal, and we told them that अगर आपके घर पे कोई किसी को मारता है तो आप ये हमें बताओ, ये ठीक नहीं है और हम उनकी हेल्प करेंगे. और ये करने के बाद ये इवेंट हुआ, इसके 1 महीने बाद हम मलिहाबाद में ही वी वर ऑर्गेनाइजिंग अ लीगल एड कैंप. And we did not expect much because despite the outreach, people are not very willing to share their legal problems with students. But 1 month later, when we had organized the legal aid camp, 2 women came, and both of these women shared that they were for the first time taking or were ready to take a legal recourse because they had developed trust in us. And they told us that they were victims of domestic violence. And we provided them lawyers, and their cases have been going on in court since then. But because their kids told this to their mothers, the mothers later on developed the courage to come to us in the legal aid camps, and they were provided with legal aid help. They were provided with shelter homes as well. Some of them were relocated to Lucknow, and that's how we were able to change lives. And अगर आप पूछोगे कि इसमें मेरे क्या resources लगे, personally मेरा एक भी resource नहीं लगा. All it took was my time. All it took was my effort. This extra mile that नहीं मुझे call करना है. I have to make sure that this woman gets justice. I have to make sure that kids become educated. You can save some children from sexual exploitation. There's no bigger prayer, no bigger achievement that you can have rather than saving some children or making people's lives better, right? And as law students, the whole point is that we have the power to do it. If you're not doing it right now, or you think or you thought that this was not possible to be done, it's very easy to do. Trust me. All it takes is tell your university authorities that we want to do it. Nobody in your university is going to say कि legal aid मत करो. कोई नहीं होगा ऐसा. अगर functional legal aid clinic है तो get associated, get a pro bono club established. और अगर नहीं है तो आप इसको pro bono club तो establish करवा ही सकते हो. Otherwise बच्चों को पढ़ाना, खुद से initiative लेना. You don't need a letterhead to get a child admitted under RTE. A lot of NGOs are doing this without a letterhead. Having a letterhead makes it easier, but you don't need it. And fourth thing that I would like to share, again, this is a challenge of legal aid before I proceed to the next topic, right? So दिस इज माय पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस. मैं अपने 5th ईयर में था और हमें डिस्ट्रिक्ट लीगल सर्विसेज अथॉरिटी लखनऊ का ऑफिस विजिट करना था. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड, आई हैव बीन अ पार्ट ऑफ लीगल एड फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम. I am aware how things work. I am an English speaking individual. I am from a legal fraternity. I go to the court और उस टाइम हाई कोर्ट नया लखनऊ में शिफ्ट हुआ था. So the new district legal service authority was established in Kesarbagh. So this is a small court in Lucknow. सो वी वेंट टू लखनऊ एंड हम वहां सबसे पूछ रहे हैं कि डीएलएसए का ऑफिस कहाँ है, डीएलएसए का ऑफिस कहाँ है, और कोई हमें नहीं बता रहा डीएलएसए का ऑफिस कहाँ है. मेरे पास डीएलएसए अथॉरिटीज का नंबर भी था. आई कॉल्ड अप द डीएलएसए एंड इवन दे वर नॉट एबल टू इन्फॉर्म मी कि डीएलएसए का ऑफिस कहाँ पे है. क्यों वो बता रहे थे बट मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा था. एंड डिस्पाइट माई बैकग्राउंड एंड डिस्पाइट माई अवेयरनेस कि मुझे डीएलएसए ढूंढना है, it took me 60 to 90 minutes to be able to find that office. Now why is this problematic? फर्स्ट, क्योंकि किसी को पता नहीं है. अगर कोई गरीब लिटिगेंट आ रहा है गांव से जिसका कोर्ट यहाँ लखनऊ कचहरी में केस लगा है, उनको नहीं पता भाई कि डीएलएसए नाम की चीज है, उनको फ्री लीगल एड मिल सकता है. दैट्स वन. जहां पर नीचे बड़े बड़े बैनर्स होने चाहिए दैट यू आर एंटाइटल्ड टू फ्री काउंसिल्स, there's no banner, no direction, nothing. And I'm talking this about 2022. I hope things have changed for the better now, but there was nothing there. And when I walked up to the DLSA, I talked to the chairman. I told ma'am ki she was an additional district judge is supposed to be the chairman of the DLSA. So I talked to them. I told them, ma'am, there's no banners. We had so much problems. How would a litigant reach you? And she told that हम लोग बहुत banners लगाते हैं, लेकिन नीचे जो वकील है वो उसको फाड़ देते हैं. Now imagine the situation. Lawyers think that if free legal aid would become a right, it would be a threat to them. Instead of realizing that they should be the ones who are voluntarily engaging with DLSA. When you become a lawyer, you have the privilege of getting associated with DLSA, and you would be paid on a per case basis. You would become a state lawyer who would be representing the poorest sections. You would also be paid, and this is sort of like pro bono work. The government pays you as an incentive. Otherwise, this is something that you should do. But other lawyers, they're thinking that if DLSA becomes popular, how will they earn? So they don't let poor litigants get their rights. And this is why I'm saying that we, as the next generation of lawyers, we have a responsibility to change this. See, if you're in this session, I see more than 100 people in this session. Now, if you're in this session, I assume that you feel a responsibility and you feel an empathy towards these people. You want to use your degree for something better. So make sure that impact rather than money becomes your goal. Because later on, money comes in as a lawyer. As a lawyer, I can tell you money comes in later on. But if you go with the intention of having an impact and helping the people, later on your name and your respect will build. So that's about legal aid. Something I'm very passionate about, so I think I took a lot of time. Next, this is something which is again my passion project. This is not an official thing. This is something very informal. But you can establish justice cells in universities. Now, this is a name I've come up with. You could call it anything. But basically, a justice cell is something which would provide justice. Now, all of you know what justice means. It's very different from law. Law is a tool to achieve justice. Justice is a destination. Law is the tool that you need to, one of the tools to achieve justice, right? So one thing that we started within our legal aid cell because I was associated with it. But if you're not, you don't need a legal aid cell to do this. This is not the necessary work of a legal aid cell. Any law student can do it. If you organize a cell, you can have like-minded people, the work will be distributed. Otherwise, if you're very passionate, you can do it by yourself. The first thing is drafting of RTIs. I'll take a separate slide for RTIs, but essentially, there's a lot of misapprehension about people not knowing how to file an RTI. And as I'll show, filing an RTI is an extremely simple thing. It takes 10 rupees and 20 minutes. Like that's my mantra, 10 rupees, 20 minutes, and you'll be able to file an RTI. So I'll show you how you file it. But essentially, as law students, you can file an RTI and it leads to governance. So RTI is one of the best tools for justice and governance that every citizen of this country has. The reason I'm sharing this with you as law students, if you have never filed an RTI, then any problem that you faced from any government authority, trust me, try to use RTI as a solution and see things change. And I've personally experienced it. I have made my friends personally experience that. And that's why I'm coming here with empirical evidence. So when you try to establish a justice cell or a justice club within your university. Second, you try to draft RTIs or try to draft PILs. That's something completely based on your interest. As law students, you have the ability to do it. I'll give you an example, right? Back in law school, we wanted to file a PIL. we drafted a PIL. Drafting a PIL is not hard. You would find 1,000 examples, you will find them on the internet. You can simply take a template. आजकल तो chat GPT भी है, so you can get a PIL drafted from there, edit it accordingly. All you will need is a lawyer. Trust me, you'll approach any senior who is working in a court, in a high court, and you tell them that, sir, I want to file this PIL. If you are their junior, they would not say no. Otherwise, and approach any state lawyer through the DLSA, they'll definitely be happy to file the PIL. A lot of lawyers look at this as a publicity opportunity also, so that's unfortunate, but that's also why they'll file a PIL. So as law students, you have the ability to do it. So that's second. Thirdly, Project 39A. So I don't know if all of you are aware of it or not, but Project 39A is an excellent initiative of National Law University, Delhi. I have not had the privilege of working with them, but I have followed their work for the last 5-6 years. And if you ever type Project 39A, you'll see the impact that they have, right? So it's a college cell, but it's not just law students, they also work as a center. For example, you might have heard about the death penalty, and there's a doctrine in Bachchan Singh, rarest of the rare cases. And later on, there's also a new case, a new doctrine that's emerging, which is called doctrine of mitigating circumstances. Now, whenever a person is on capital punishment, you need to ascertain their mitigating circumstances, which means that you look at, okay, whether this person was born as an orphan, whether that person had a very poor or a very criminal upbringing. Can that be one of the reasons that that person should not be given the death penalty? Because death penalty is extremely harsh. Now, this is already a very well thought out doctrine. But what Project 39A did, they approached the Supreme Court. Project 39A approached the Supreme Court and said that, sir, we need to send an independent psychologist counselor to the prisoner. And that independent psychologist will be doing the evaluation, and we will submit that report to you. And based on that, you take the mitigating circumstances into account. And I think if it was Justice Chandrachud's bench only when he was not Chief Justice. And Justice Chandrachud actually allowed Project 39A's lawyers and psychologists to visit the particular prisoner, and that prisoner filled out the evaluation form, and that was actually relied upon in the Supreme Court judgment. It's actually mentioned in the Supreme Court judgment that the evaluation from 39A has been used. So now understand, if you, and 39A takes a lot of interns, and they also, it's a paid internship, so that's a good thing. So you can always associate yourself with 39A, learn the essential policies of legal aid. So that's again something. And anybody can do it. Like, there's no restriction saying that a similar section, a similar Article 39A initiative cannot be within your universities. It can be. It's just a legal aid think tank center, which has now done so well that the government recognizes it, right? So that's three. And fourth, of course, are community-driven incentives, community-driven initiatives. What this basically means is that whatever things you do within your university, they don't necessarily have to be stuck to your university. So, for example, I give you an example of a justice cell or an RTI cell, right? Now, if you want to form an RTI cell in a university, let's say, you are somebody who files an RTI, you get work done, and you feel that, okay, RTIs are good. I want to educate people about RTIs. You'll educate your law students, your fellow law students. I think around 50, 100 of them would turn up. Hopefully, they also become enthusiastic. But now the truth is that you will graduate after 5 years. But the area where your university is situated, that area will always need RTIs to improve governance, from traffic lights to water leakage to any of those things. So you can actually educate the people who live in the vicinity of your university about these initiatives. See, as law students, we carry a lot of credibility. When you go to somebody and say that I am a student of law and I want to teach you something, it's a double benefit. See, if you go and say I'm a lawyer and I want to teach you something, but think that you're there for the money, and I've personally experienced it. But as a law student, when you go, they realize that, okay, this person is well read, they're studying in a university. And two, because they're a student, they would actually want to help me and not try to take money from me. So therefore, being a law student is actually a very good position to be in, trust me. And therefore, community-driven initiatives are very easy to do. So I gave you the example of the legal aid clinic that was situated right outside of our university. But a lot of people did not know that the legal aid clinic was situated there. So every week, we used to go to a different area in Lucknow and take pamphlets, simple pamphlets with us, and tell them that there's a legal aid cell which is run completely by students. And if you fall within the legal aid criteria, which is if your income is less than 1 lakh, if you're a woman, if you are somebody who has been an exploited, human trafficked person, or all of these criteria, then we will provide you free legal aid from the state, and we will not charge any money, and we are students from a good university. And these initiatives help. And you can similarly take these initiatives across to RTIs across two PILs. You can tell them that you can tell them that you can tell your university that you want to do it and they'll help you. You can tell those people that you want to help them and they'll obviously absolutely come to you. A lot of times they won't seek direct lawyer help from you, but they'll come to you for basic advice. They'll say that our lawyer is saying we should do this, but do you also think this is the right thing to do? I'll also give you an example, right? And this again will tell you. Now आपको पता होगा इंडिया में adoption की guidelines बहुत strict है. And I was only a third year student, mind you. I did not know a law बहुत ज्यादा उस time. बट इंडिया में अडॉप्शन की गाइडलाइंस बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट है, पर इंडिया में इतना लोगों को पता नहीं होता. सो देयर वाज अ टाइम व्हेन a couple came to us in the legal aid clinic, and I was there. One of my senior fourth years was sitting there, and the couple said to us कि हम एक बच्चा अडॉप्ट करने वाले हैं और हमने बस सब कुछ फाइनलाइज कर लिया है. एक बच्चा महाराष्ट्र में रहता है. दिस इज लखनऊ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. वो बच्चा महाराष्ट्र का है, and we'll pay money to the parents. We'll make sure that they don't have money. The parents already have 3 children, so they are ready to give the third child to us, and we have been trying to have a child for last 20 years, and we are not able to have a child, so we are going to adopt that child by paying the parents. Now आउटसेट पे आपको लगेगा ये तो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, the parents really need it. But we looked at the legal, we told them कि सर आप प्लीज 2 दिन बाद आइए और हम पढ़ के आपको बताएंगे, which is again a very important legal skill. Don't tell the wrong lot of people. Please read about it, take advice from lawyers, and then only give the advice. So 2 days later, that person came, and it was such a heartbreaking moment because I had to give him the news. But if they actually followed through with that process, that would have fallen under child trafficking guidelines. It would have been a crime, and there was no criminal intention. But it is not allowed to adopt a child like this. And especially if you pay it, then it becomes trafficking. If you had have taken without paying, it would have been a simple kidnapping. If you pay it and do it, it becomes a trafficking violation. So we told them, and they felt really bad, but they understood. And later on, we told them about the CARA guidelines. So there's a formal adoption procedure. It's a little long, but these people were eligible to it, and we put them under the CARA, which is the Child Rights. It's an organization under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So we put them in touch with the CARA people, and then made sure that they somehow were able to fill their application forms. So understand, you'll find all kinds of cases, but you'll always have various diversifying impacts. On one hand, we could not let them adopt the child, but on the other hand, there's a good chance we saved them from very bad criminal prosecution, right? So as lawyers, you'll get all of these experiences. So that's about justice cells in your universities. Thirdly, let's talk about RTI as a tool for civic empowerment. So the reason, see, anybody can file an RTI, right? It's a Right to Information Act 2005. It's a right given to all of the citizens. And in our university, there was a separate subject semester for RTIs related studies. But even if there's not, I would recommend you to just take 10 minutes, read the Wikipedia on RTI, and you'll realize how hard fought a right this was. Initially, there was a Freedom of Information Act. This is just trivia. But initially, there was a Freedom of Information Act. I think it was in 2002. And later on, the Freedom of Information Act was repealed, and the Right to Information Act was brought in, because it was really important for the government as well as the civil society organizations to establish that RTI is not just a freedom; it's a right. And as you study constitutional law, I'm sure you all are aware of the big distinction between a freedom and a right. So RTI is a very hard fought right. It's been going on in Supreme Courts for the last 30 years before RTI became a right. So everybody can file it, but very less people file it actually. As law students, we are in a very sweet spot in terms of filing RTIs, and we can file them not just for ourselves, but for other people also. One, we have the capability to draft RTIs. See, one thing I've seen is that when we are law students, we are required to draft term papers all the time, right? All semesters, every subject, we are drafting term papers. You might be aware that people who are not studying law, so if you were just doing a BA, if you're doing a Bachelor of Arts, you do not need to write term papers like this, which is why we have a very good drafting capability right when we are in law school. So first, we have the capability to draft RTIs. You can simply read up RTIs and you'll get. So आपको question नहीं पूछना होता, आपको information seek करनी होती. You cannot write why was this done. You cannot ask for reasons, but you can write please provide information on the funding that was provided to clean the Yamuna, for example. So that's how you cannot ask why the Yamuna is not clean, but you can ask please provide the files that deal with the cleaning of Yamuna. So that they're obligated to provide. One, we have the capability. Two, we know where to draft the RTIs, or where do we have to send the RTIs. So a lot of people would file an RTI and they would just address it to the chief minister, or they would address it to the prime minister. थिंकिंग कि हमारी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगी, बट ऑब्वियसली ऐसे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं होगी। जब लॉ है तो आपके लॉ के रूल्स। अनफॉर्चुनेट पार्ट ये है कि हमारी गवर्नमेंट की जो एजेंसीज में लोग बैठे होते हैं, they're already very overburdened. There is no separate RTI officer in a university, in a government setting. कोई ऑफिसर होता है जो अपना काम कर रहा होता है और उसी को एक आरटीआई ऑफिसर बना दिया जाता है, so it's an additional charge. Therefore what this leads to is that these people are already very overburdened, and what we have seen is that if your RTI is not very well drafted, they are very happy to reject it. They'll say ki this information does not fall under RTI Act under section 8 and therefore we are rejecting your RTI. If you file it at the wrong place, then also they can do it. Also, although they are obligated to transfer it, but most of the times they reject it, saying that this information is not available in our department, and they reject your RTI. So, as law students, you have the wherewithal of research, where you can find out, okay, where the RTI is to be drafted. And thirdly, when the first information officers, they do not provide the correct, the PIOs, the public information officers, they do not provide the right information, which will happen 50% of the times in my first experience. You as law students know that this is not the final thing and you can always appeal. So RTI Act provides you the right to appeal. It's a statutory right. And it's called the first appeal. And the first appeal goes to the senior officer of the first PIO. So that's again a very important right. And later on, this is again trivia. But if the first appellate authority also does not provide the information, then you can go in the second appeal. And the second appeal is before the State Information Commission or the Central Information Commission, which are again statutory bodies. And the good part is that you don't need to be a lawyer to argue there. Anybody can argue there. So even if you, as a law student, file an RTI and your response is not given from the first information officer, you have the right to argue before the Central Information Commission, and that's again a privilege, right? So one, we as law students can empower not only ourselves but also other citizens with RTI. Second, the role of young lawyers. So we can streamline the RTI filing process and educate the public for its effective use. Now, I've already told you how you can establish an RTI cell and help people draft RTIs. You can tell at your legal clinic that we will also file RTIs for you and they'll be happy to. Right. Sorry. So they'll be happy to happy to take your help for filing the RTI. But thirdly, a lot of people think that you can only file RTI through the physical process कि आपको post करना पड़ेगा 10 रुपए की चीज को, and the unfortunate thing about posting is that you don't ever know कि आपकी चीज वहां कब पहुंची, 30 days कब से काउंट होंगे जब से आपने पोस्ट किया है जब से उन्होंने रिसीव किया, right? All of these questions exist, which is why I would prefer always file RTIs online. And पहले सिर्फ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की RTIs online फाइल हो सकती थी, but nowadays even state authorities allow you to file RTIs online. So I've given you links here, if you can see rtionline.gov.in and rtionline.up.gov.in if you want to file an RTI for the UP government. And trust me, like I've written, 20 minutes, 10 rupees. That's all it takes to file an RTI. अगर आज आप फ्री हो इस सेशन के बाद, आपके आपने कोई प्रॉब्लम फेस किया है, आप कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन जानना चाहते हो, आप जानना चाहते हो कि आपके शहर में जो रिवर बहती है वो क्लीन क्यों नहीं है, आप जानना चाहते हो कि एयर पॉल्यूशन के रिगार्डिंग कितने पैसे एलोकेट हुए हैं, इस स्कीम के रिगार्डिंग कितने पैसे एलोकेट हुए हैं, so you can always just file an RTI today and you will see the difference that happens. So that's two. And again, build RTI clubs, go beyond university. You don't just need to educate law students, you can also educate the people around you कि आप इस तरह से आरटीआई फाइल कर सकते हो. एंड ट्रस्ट मी, हम क्या करते थे, इट्स वेरी सिंपल. आप एक पैम्फलेट लो, उस पैम्फलेट पे लिंक डाल दो कि ओके दिस लिंक फॉर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, दिस लिंक फॉर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, और उस लिंक के साथ आप एक ड्राफ्ट आरटीआई कर दो. उसमें एक सैंपल ड्राफ्ट करके दे दो कि इंफॉर्मेशन होनी चाहिए, क्वेश्चन नहीं होना चाहिए, रीजंस नहीं पूछे होने चाहिए. एंड सिर्फ इसके बेसिस पे अगर कोई एजुकेटेड इंसान है तो वो डायरेक्टली आरटीआई फाइल कर सकता है. उनको अवेयरनेस ही नहीं है, आपने उनको अवेयरनेस कर दी और गवर्नेंस बेटर हो जाती है इससे. And if there's an illiterate person, you can always file RTIs for them. So that's second. Thirdly, I've given the example of Bhadresh Vamjaji. This is an example from 2013, but I was very astounded when I learned it. And in fact, जब मैं बहुत छोटा था उस time, but I read the newspaper about him. And after reading about him, I had filed my first RTI. So I was very inspired, and that's why I've put his name. He was a 21-year-old law student. And he used to file RTIs when he was young, from 17, 16 age, he was filing RTIs. And because of his RTIs in his village, he stopped ration fraud that was happening. Basically, you can simply put an RTI saying that why, not why, but you can ask, please provide information about how much rice has been allotted to this particular PDS shop. And when they show that 20 kilos or 200 kilos, 200 quintals have been allotted, and in actuality only 150 quintals is coming, it's been distributed, then public authorities automatically are required to act. because you can simply show in the media that 150 is the real figure, 200 is the government figure, and therefore the action will automatically be taken. The problem is not that the government does not want to take action. The problem is the government is not aware कि क्या क्या problems है. आप वो bridge बन के उनको aware करा सकते हो because you are law students. So Bhadresh Vamjati did this only. He improved ration fraud and he improved the buses frequency in that area. And at the age of 21 years, he was elected as the sarpanch of his village. अंडरस्टैंड द पीपल लाइक हिज वर्क सो मच कि ग्राम सभा इलेक्शंस में उन्होंने उस 21 साल के लॉ स्टूडेंट को सरपंच बना दिया बिकॉज दैट्स द इम्पैक्ट मेयर आरटीआई फाइलिंग ही डिड नॉट डू एनी कैंपेनिंग कुछ और नहीं करना पड़ा उनको बस आरटीआई फाइल करके उन्होंने लोगों की लाइफ को इतना बेटर कर दिया कि वो इलेक्शन जीत गए सो आई वुड जस्ट रिकमेंड ऑल ऑफ यू टू यूज आरटीआई एज अ वे ऑफ गवर्नेंस and fourth the success in civic projects so I told you the example of how we cleaned the area near our university not just we shot a letter we had also filed an RTI application asking कि कौन से एरिया को गार्बेज डंप किया गया है नोटिफाई बाय द एमसीडी एंड यूनिवर्सिटी के पास के इस पर्टिकुलर एरिया को गार्बेज डंप किस नोटिफिकेशन के अंडर डाला गया है और ट्रूथ था कि यूनिवर्सिटी एरिया के पास गार्बेज डंप हो ही नहीं सकता सो दैट्स व्हाट दे रोट लेटर ऑन दैट दिस एरिया हैज नॉट बीन रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज द गार्बेज डंप but because the government is bound to tell the truth and because we had sent photos along with the RTI application showing कि उस एरिया में कूड़ा है उनको अगले दिन सब साफ करना पड़ा और फिर रेगुलरली उसको साफ करना पड़ा and because we had sent letters on the university letterhead as well so that area consistently became clean and now that area is a good green area बच्चे खेलते हैं वहां पे so that's one example of how we enforce Swachh Bharat how we can engage in civic projects and collaborate with local authorities like I said the government wants to work they just don't have the bandwidth one and they don't know कि क्या क्या problems है as aware citizens if you just use this simple 10 रुपए 20 मिनट के legal mechanisms आप use करोगे you will be able to build a better life and a better community for people around you so that's about RTI the fourth thing that's again that's something I think only law students and lawyers can do so this one is a little specific RTI anybody can do this legal discourse is only something only law students and lawyers can do right so firstly you can write to influence policy now, if some of you read newspapers, it's a very good habit. Please read them. But if some of you read newspapers, first, a lot of us, और मैं भी जब कॉलेज के फर्स्ट ईयर में था तो थोड़ा सा ये रहता था कि बस टर्म पेपर सबमिट करना है प्रोजेक्ट रिक्वायरमेंट है सीनियर से लेके दे दो या कैसे भी दे दो एक अनफॉर्चुनेट ट्रेंड रहता है बट एज आई वेंट अहेड इन द क्लासेस आई रियलाइज दैट आई डोंट वांट टू राइट merely for the sake of writing there's also pressure in law schools right that you need to have a publication होगी तो respect होगी glory होगी नाम होगा etc but the truth is and I realized this in my between my second year and after that I made sure it was my mantra for legal writing write to influence policy don't write for the sake of writing and as lawyers see अगर आप बायोकेमिस्ट्री पढ़ रहे हो तो आप नहीं कर सकते आप हर चीज में पॉलिसी इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं कर सकते लेकिन अगर आप लॉयर हो ना everything that you do is somehow linked with policy. And that's a very big, powerful statement that I'm making, so I'll explain it. See, every day, if you have ever read the Hindu or the Indian Express, these are really good papers. The editorials are written by very accomplished people. But a lot of times, if you read them, every month there would be 3 or 4 articles in these papers, which are written by law students or very young lawyers and sometimes law students also. It would be written, this article has been written by so-and-so, third year law student of so-and-so university. And understand, हर सुबह कौन हिंदू पढ़ रहा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजेस आईएएस ऑफिसर्स politicians everybody is reading these newspapers you can actually influence policy and secondly the topics that you choose make sure that they are somehow linked to policy and I'll give you examples of what sort of topics you can use but trust me the things that you write in the papers they create a narrative in front of the government that okay this is what the people want what kind of legal discourse should you have so whatever legal discourse you have, it must educate, question, and solve. So firstly, and I'm not talking about academic research papers. See, that's a different area. If you are writing for a journal, that's a very good thing. This is not what I'm asking you to do in this slide. When you're talking about a meaningful legal discourse, let's say you want to write something on the air pollution rules. Let's say you live in Delhi, you think the smog is very bad, and you think that the existing legal mechanism is flawed. You want to recommend a policy change so that the legal discourse around air pollution becomes legally better. So firstly, you must educate. Whatever you write in your PPTs, make sure it educates that, okay, this is the present act. A lot of laymen would not be able to go through the Environmental Pollution Act, as well as the Air Act, as well as the Water Act, as well as the Environment Protection Rules. They won't have the bandwidth to do it. They won't have the legal experience to do it, but you do. So firstly, you will give the कि ये present status है. That's the education. Second, question why the present status is not okay. First, obviously, air pollution status is not okay. But second, talk legally. What are the loopholes? किन loopholes की वजह से industries अभी भी pollute करती हैं? क्यों क्यों loopholes ऐसे हैं कि implement नहीं हो पाता जबकि law बना हुआ है? And thirdly, propose a solution. And trust me, this is not something ChatGPT can do. If you think कि writing by influencing policy simply means, hey, draft an article on making air pollution better, it won't happen because ChatGPT has what already exists on the internet. It's simply a rethink of what already exists. But questioning the existing policy holes on your own, that can come only by one, your experience, and two, when you're really passionate about it. अगर आप सच में passionate हो कि एयर पॉल्यूशन की प्रॉब्लम को दिल्ली में देखोगे ना, तो आपको समझ कि अच्छा क्या रीजन है कि व्हीकल के पास पॉल्यूशन सर्टिफिकेट तो होता है, बट the people who are checking the pollution certificate, they don't even check, they just generate the certificate. You pay them 100 rupees, they generate the certificate. How you can change that? There's no talk on the internet about this. Everybody's like, get a PUC certificate for your vehicle. Nobody's talking about how people are bypassing getting these PUC certificates, right? So these are things that as law students you have to identify, you have to solve. And imagine writing about something like this. Imagine writing about making PUC pollution certificates better for people across the country. And this is an article which will easily get published in any newspaper. So that's how you write about legal discourse that influences policy. Thirdly, there's an option of institutional writing. A lot of times, in fact, if you know now, a lot of policy and a lot of legislations, they're actually being drafted by law firms. So gone is the time जब Ministry of Law and Justice बैठ के पूरा का पूरा law draft करती थी. Nowadays the government, they contact various law firms, and these law firms को वो अपनी requirements बताती हैं, and these law firms draft statutes for them. Now, how do these law firms draft statutes? They draft it based on the policy recommendations, and these policy recommendations can come from various think tanks. So on the PPT you see names like Vidhi, PRS, which is the research system. I think the can't recall it right now, but it's the legislative PRS legislative research system. Yes, and there's the LAM fellowship where you get to work with parliamentarians. All of these are really good ways where you can work with institutions that are working on large scale policies. So that's third. And fourth, you can always work with the government. And I have a separate slide on the government about how you can work with the government. But essentially, you can engage with the Ministry of Law and Justice, and you can engage with the Ministry of Youth Affairs. All of the time, they're working in a lot of white papers. They are always seeking inputs from the youth. And very importantly, if you ever go on the website for Gazette of India, आप कभी जाओ Gazette of India को खोलो, वहां पे हर महीने जो गजेट ऑफ इंडिया नोटिफिकेशन आती है, every month they would have some sort of a notification asking public's response to a particular law. अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अभी वक्फ एक्ट के रिगार्डिंग बहुत कंट्रोवर्सी चल रही है. जब वक्फ एक्ट को नोटिफाई, आई मीन व्हेन द वक्फ बिल वाज बीइंग इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, इट वाज इनवाइटेड फॉर पब्लिक कंसल्टेशन. इट्स अ लॉ विद इन इंडिया दैट एनी स्टैट्यूट व्हेन इट इज बीइंग ब्रॉट और पॉलिसी इज बीइंग ब्रॉट, द पब्लिक कंसल्टेशन इज टेकन. I used to make it a point that whenever there was an act जो मुझे लगता था मैं इसके बारे में जानता हूँ, I would always write to the ministry, or I would always write to the particular authority with my concerns. Now there's a difference, right? Like if you are a layman, you would simply write कि मुझे वक्फ एक्ट अच्छा लगता है या मुझे नहीं लगता है because ये reasons है. But अगर आप लॉ स्टूडेंट हो तो आप दोगे कि देखो इस कंट्री में वक्फ एक्ट ऐसे चलता है, वहां के सिचुएशन सिमिलर है तो हम भी ऐसे कर सकते हैं अंडर सो एंड सो सेक्शन में प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. So basically, the issue is that whatever recommendations you have, they come from a legal standpoint. And at any given point, the government is considering at least 100 legislations. At any given point, you can submit your inputs. And trust me, when you submit your inputs, 2 साल बाद 3 साल बाद एक्ट बनने के बाद, बट आपको गवर्नमेंट से एक रिस्पॉन्स आता है. मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ. Basically, back when I was in my 4th year, I was working in commercial law, and there was an issue of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India was working with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and they wanted some research done on the nomination and remuneration committee. It's basically a corporate governance thing. So basically, my university had put up this notice that this particular policy, with this particular paper that so and so government institute is drafting, they want recommendations and research done from law students. So nothing, I just signed up for it. I just asked my professor, okay, what should I do? The professor said, do so. I prepared a research. I sent that research and I forgot about it. Later on, 2 years later, I got an email from the secretary of the Institute of Company Secretaries and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs thanking me for my inputs on nomination and remuneration committee, and that they have been included within the policy paper. Now that's such a direct way to influence policy. And मेरे कोई पैसे नहीं लगे. All I had to do was research on a topic I was already interested in, and you somehow got to get involved directly in policy making, right? So that's something again that law students are very well placed to do. See, anybody can do it. Technically, anybody can recommend any changes to anybody. But as law students, you have the ability to filter out what's wrong, think legally, think in a structural manner, and make these changes. So that's about legal discourse. And I'll give you two examples. So I think in my introduction, it was mentioned that I had written a couple of papers. So the paper that you see, so the image that you see on the right, this was a paper I wrote during COVID. Both of these are actually written during coronavirus. So in the right side, you can see this was published by the London School of Economics. And essentially, I saw that during coronavirus, all sorts of protests had ended. And I feel that right to freedom of protest is such an intrinsic part of democracy, right? So I, along with one of my friends, we drafted a paper saying that there needs to be an innovative way of protesting. And we talked to people in Spain who had done an innovative protest. And based on my conversation with them, based on legal research from Spain, from international law, etc., we drafted this paper, which ultimately got published by London School. And here we suggested that you should protest by holograms. And when we wrote this paper, it sort of changed it. They shared it in Spain, the institution that had actually done the protest. They shared it in Spain. So we sort of had a multinational effect. And this I wrote it, I think I was only in my second year of law school. So this was something that I was passionate about. I thought about something innovatively and I was able to write it. The paper that you see on the left, now this actually went viral when I wrote it. Um, Basically, during COVID, if you remember the second wave, it was extremely disastrous. And a lot of universities, including my university back then, was taking an exam despite most of the people and their families either unfortunately passing away or being affected by COVID-19. You may remember the country was on fire literally, but law schools were taking exams consistently. So I felt really bad because one of my batchmates in law school only, he lost his mother during the second wave. But despite losing his mother, next day he was writing this exam. And I was extremely saddened when I came to know that from my friend कि ये स्थिति आ गई है. So simply what I did was I talked to all of the friends I had in various law schools. Every law school that I knew. अगर आप ये article पढ़ोगे, you can simply go on Google and look at it. If you read this article, I talked to every law school where I had a contact. I think I contacted around 27, 28 law schools, private, government, NLUs. And I asked them कि आपके यहाँ एग्जाम हो रहा है क्या? आपके यहाँ जो एग्जाम्स हो रहे हैं वो इंटरनल असेसमेंट है या रिटन असेसमेंट है? I asked 4-5 questions, and based on that I got data from 30 law schools, and I did data analysis and I sent it to Quint, asking them to publish it. And Quint published it. After that, this paper actually became viral. Some members of parliament also circulated it. And because I had shared this with because I had taken data from all law schools, I actually ended up um, sending this article to all the students जिन्होंने मुझे data दिया था, and they shared it in their law schools. So it became, for around a week, it became the center of attention, and every law school was talking about it. And later on, if you'll see in this paper, there's also disclaimers where some universities ended up changing their policies and ended up relaxing the examination standards because of this paper. क्योंकि ये ट्विटर पे और बाकी लॉ स्कूल्स को इफेक्ट करता था, ट्विटर पे भी वायरल चला गया, एमपीज ने शेयर कर दिया, and that's how it affected. Now understand, I did not write this because it bolsters my legal CV. It does not. This is not a legal paper, it's a policy paper. But I wrote it because I wanted to change things. मेरे अंदर ये फीलिंग थी कि ये जो हो रहा है ये गलत हो रहा है, मैं लॉयर हूं, मैं इसे चेंज कर सकता हूं, मैं नहीं करूंगा तो कौन करेगा. एंड आई सिंपली हैड टू राइट दिस पेपर. कितना टाइम लगा होगा? एक दिन मैंने डेटा मांगा, एक दिन अगले दिन डेटा आ गया, 5 दिन बाद मैंने पेपर लिख के सबमिट कर दिया, एक हफ्ते में पब्लिश हो गया, और कितने सारे बच्चों के लिए आराम हो गया होगा, राइट? सो that's what I'm saying. Like, whatever you do, make sure you feel for it, because then you'll go the extra mile and you write these things. So my entire point is, write to influence policy. Don't write कि बस एक पेपर पब्लिश हो जाए. वो अगर आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट है, it's different. But if you're a law student, if you have the wherewithal, write to influence policy. Next, justice through tech. So this again is a particular angle I've taken because it's related to the youth. So essentially, because we are youth, we are very good at tech. at least better adaptive and better adaptable to tech. So agar aap log Shark Tank dekhte ho, so on Shark Tank there's this organization came. We had actually collaborated with this organization before, so I was aware of them, but I was very happy to see them on Shark Tank. This organization called Sama. It's essentially an online dispute resolution platform, and it was built by very young law students. I think they were from uh, NUJS Kolkata. I might be wrong, but they co-founded this platform, and already they solved 3.5 millions of legal cases outside of court through an online platform. And a lot of new startups have also been doing this. So understand कि यहाँ पर आप justice कैसे achieve करो. एक तो cheap है, online situations बहुत सस्ती हैं litigation से. Secondly, you are also reducing the pendency in courts. And thirdly, these people are now working with government and various banks to reduce pendency, and it's a win-win situation. So that's one. This is one way where some law students felt that they can use tech to reduce pendency, and they found a way which is extremely successful. I think the last time I checked, they had a 70 or 80 crore valuation. So that's again some route that law students chose. Secondly, tech-driven legal accessibility. So in my interactions with Chief Justice Chandrachud ji, he talked about the SUVAS system. That's why I remember this name, SUVAS. It's in Hindi. It's essentially a translation system by the Supreme Court, and it was Chief Justice's pet project where he wanted to translate Supreme Court judgments into Hindi and various other Indian languages. So, agar aapne abhi dekha ho, I think recently only a notification has come by the Supreme Court where they want fresher law students, or I think fresher lawyers with an LLB degree, to engage in the translation of various Supreme Court judgments and aid the SUVAS system. Other than that, all the filings today in the Supreme Court, they are done via e-filing. So that's again a good thing, because a lot of times when you will end up, if you like something from this session and if you go and volunteer with civil society organizations, you can simply tell NGOs, ki, hey sir, I'm a law student, I would like to help you. Ma'am, I'm a law student, I would like to help you. And they'll tell us, how would you like to help? You can say, I can draft PILs for you. I can file PILs for you. A lot of courts today, after COVID especially, they allow e-filing. The Supreme Court also allows e-filing now. Basically, all the petitions have to be drafted offline, but they will be submitted online. So that's a really good thing that US law students can do. Thirdly, engagement with civil society. So this is a platform called iPro Bono, but there are a lot of platforms like that. They connect volunteering young lawyers. If you're a young lawyer with a degree and you want to help people, one way is you can always associate with district legal services authorities. But on the other hand, you can also connect with the civil society organizations. Because जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, मेरे को केसरबाग में नहीं मिल रहा था, बहुत सारे लोगों को नहीं पता है कि सिविल सोसाइटी की they can get free legal aid. So a lot of civil society organizations or NGOs, they reach out to people themselves for free legal aid, right? So they provide कि हाँ हाँ हम आपकी मदद करेंगे. But in NGOs को भी आपके जैसे talented lawyers चाहिए who are willing to fight, willing to give their time. So if I take this example in this particular case, 2010 Delhi Commonwealth Games के पहले slums के demolition हो गए थे, and किसी को पता नहीं था क्या करें. So the lawyers from this place were the ones जिन्होंने reach out किया उन victims को जो slums में रहते थे, और बाद में it was completely free. Civil society में lawyers ने volunteer किया, and later on these victims got justice from the Delhi High Court, and they were asked to be relocated on government cost. Similarly, आजकल manual scavenging आपको पता होगा banned है, 1992 के एक्ट से banned है, पर आज भी especially पिछली जगहों में उत्तर प्रदेश के इंटीरियर्स में unfortunately होती है. Acid attack के victims, acid attack, I think it's in article section 323 capital A 323 capital B of the IPC. अब BNS में देखना पड़ेगा. But essentially, acid attack victims, they don't know who to approach because a lot of times they come from lower socio-economic standards. So, अगर ऐसा system चलता है ना, अगर if there's an unfortunate victim of an acid attack, or if there's an unfortunate victim of manual scavenging, then these people either they look for कि कहाँ कोई lawyer हमें मिल जाए, पर usually क्या होता है कि news में आता है कि किसी के against इतना heinous crime हुआ है, और NGOs खुद इनको approach करते हैं कि अच्छा आपके साथ कुछ खराब हुआ है, हम आपकी मदद करते हैं. But these NGOs are mostly shelter homes. They'll take the women, they'll rehabilitate them, but they don't have the legal expertise. They need volunteer lawyers like us to help them. So you can always engage with them, and आपकी जो capacity आप उसमें help कर सकते हो तो करो, please करो. And fourth, of course, are affordable justice solutions. So again, things you can do for NGOs, you can offer to draft press releases for them, conduct fact-finding inquiries for them. Because we are law students, we have an eye for discovery of material, so you can always do that. And lastly, दिस इज अगेन अ पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस, बट अगर आप कभी चाइल्ड वाले प्रिजन्स में जाओगे ना, जो चाइल्ड केयर होम्स होते हैं, चाइल्ड शेल्टर होम्स होते हैं, it's a very shattering experience. And as law students, if you have a letter from the DLSA and the CARA, you can actually, I mean the Women and Child Development Authority, you can actually go there and you'll go and see that these kids, the government tries to do the best for them based on the infrastructure they have, but often there is overcrowding, often there are old kids and young kids together. there are a lot of rights for these people, but kids obviously don't know it, and authorities are sometimes incapable of enforcing them. So if you go there, you examine things, you write a report, and you send it to the DLSA and the respective authorities, they are bound to take action legally. So, like I've been saying from the beginning, right, act as a bridge between the government and the authorities and the ones who are implementing it. You are in the best place to do it. You are essentially a lawyer. Who is a lawyer? Yeah, you are a defender of rights. So that's how you can do it. And lastly, of course, you can engage with the government. So firstly, there's the My Bharat portal. I would recommend all of you. See, I'm associated with the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports right now. So every day I have weekly meetings with them. I have met the Honorable Minister for Youth Affairs, Mansukh Mandaviji, several times, and he's very passionate about the My Bharat portal. It's a platform where youth can get various opportunities. So right now, I'll give you two examples. Right now, there are two programs that are open and you can register for them right away. So that's why I put them. First is the WICCI Vibrant Bharat Villages program. Basically, Vibrant Villages is a scheme of the government of India where they are developing our border villages. So, villages in Arunachal, villages in Kerala, villages in West Bengal, the border villages, they're developing it. And they want the youth to go and visit these villages to make sure that there's normalcy and learn about our border. So, you can simply go there, and on the government's cost, if you are selected, I think they're selecting 500 youth for 15 to 30 days, you will be on the government, you'll be government delegates who are visiting all of these various places. You'll be visiting Ladakh, you'll be visiting Arunachal, and you'll be seeing these places and see how our ITBP lives. You'll be seeing how the people in that places live. So that's one. All of this is through the My Bharat portal. And secondly, of course, is the Viksit Bharat Villages program. I mean, the roundtable for Viksit Bharat program, where a lot of, so I was selected to deliver presentation before Honorable Prime Minister, sir. And now we are having roundtables across the country. In fact, the last roundtable was conducted in Gujarat. Before that, it was in Telangana. Before that, I think it was in Delhi. So on various topics, these roundtables are being conducted. And if you go on the My Bharat platform, you will see all of this. So I would recommend all of you to register on this. Just 1 second, please. Yes. So you can obviously register on all of these. Thirdly, international law. So two things that I'm actually passionate about: international law, environmental law, and human rights law. And all because I was passionate about all of these three things, I have been given the privilege of uh, engaging with the government because of my expertise there. So in international law, I was selected by the government of India as a delegate to represent India at an international BIMSTEC summit. BIMSTEC is our Bay of Bengal countries. So I went there. I had the opportunity to engage with diplomats, make a deal that was best for my country, come out with a joint declaration. And that was, they selected me out of many reasons because I was also passionate about international law. Secondly, in environmental law, right? Like I won an international law moot court competition in my law school. Because of that, I always sustain an interest. And the presentation that I delivered before the Honorable Prime Minister, it was it was related to sustainability, and sustainability obviously is related to environmental and the things that the NGT is doing. Right now, I'm also working with the Youth Affairs Ministry, where we are preparing a working white paper that we'll present to the Environment Ministry, and a lot of youth are involved there. So these are where my environmental law education came handy to me. And fourth, of course, is policy inputs, where I gave you the example about how government wants to seek your inputs, and you can simply provide your inputs. You can give your suggestions to the government whenever there's a new call for stakeholder inputs for policies or schemes or any changes that they're making, and you'll be happy to do it. So this is a way that you'll engage with the government. I'll quickly conclude. So if the reason that this session is supposed to motivate you is because you're young, I cannot ask a 35, 40-year-old person to be energetic. Also, I'm very younger compared to them. But we have a hunger to learn. Therefore, we need to have that hunger to learn, because you can't do these things without having the hunger to go the extra mile. It's not easy to do it. It takes time. हो जाता है आसानी से, पर करना पड़ता है. बहुत मेहनत नहीं लगती, हो जाता है पर करना पड़ता है. These are three things that you'll have to remember. Build a network, because if you call a lot of times, जैसे FIR नहीं हो रही है. FIR आपने कई बार सुना होगा, FIR नहीं होती तो SP को लेटर लिखो, SP को लेटर लिखो. एसपी को लेटर कैसे लिखो यार, किसको भेजो, कहाँ भेजो, एसपी को लेटर लिख के पोस्ट करो क्या, ये सब किसी को नहीं पता होता. बट इफ यू हैव अ नेटवर्क, इफ यू नो सम लॉयर्स, इफ यू नो पीपल इन द पुलिस, यू कैन सिंपली कॉल देम, हाँ हाँ मैं इस लॉ स्कूल से बोल रहा हूँ, इन पर्सन की एफआईआर रजिस्टर नहीं हो रही, एंड दे immediately connect you with the SP, and that SP will take cognizance. So that's how. Mentor the next generation. If you ever reach a position where you think you have a network, make sure you help the people coming next. And never forget your energy. I'm very motivated by Vivekanand ji. He said, give me 100 energetic young men. And I would edit this to men and women. Give me 100 energetic young men or women, and I shall transform India. He asked for just 100. There are already 100 people on this call, right? So just trust yourself, believe in yourself, and hopefully change will come. So we started with this. The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. I would say the first thing we do, let's empower all the lawyers. And I think, and I hope this session was a little bit in that direction. You felt a little bit empowered. You felt a little bit that you can do something different for your society. So, and I'll conclude with this. So this is again an image that really motivated me. This is Nirbhaya's mother. Nirbhaya, you know, the 2012 gang rape case. Very unfortunate. And for 7 long years, she fought in the courts. And the woman that you see next to her, she was her lawyer. And you would not believe, since 2014 to 2019, she was a lawyer, Sabharwal ji, if I'm not wrong. And Sabharwal ma'am, this was her first ever case in the Supreme Court. When unko Nirbhaya ka case mein, she was not involved. She never took cases before. She was a mere protester. She felt very passionate about what happened, unfortunately, to Nirbhaya. She was a mere protester in the protests. और प्रोटेस्ट में जब टीयर गैस वगैरह चली तो ये कोर्ट गई. And just as an observer, not as a lawyer, she went to the court. She saw that Nirbhaya's mother was struggling with defense. She volunteered to protect her rights because she felt that if it can happen to Nirbhaya, it can happen to me. I am also a woman coming from a very remote location in Uttar Pradesh, and it can happen to me as well. And she passionately, for 7 years, she defended. And this is the photo from the next day after the convicts were hanged. So this is not just a photo for me. This represents what lawyers can do, what law students can do if you are passionate about it. So just have hope, have energy, and I think that would conclude. My social media is here. If you would like to connect with me here, that's okay. And I hope you learn something good. And once again, I would like to thank everybody for this session. I think it went a little long. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening session. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed this session, and we have learned a lot. We will move to the question and answer part now. So, if anyone has questions, can please raise your hands. And when I call out your name, you could proceed with the question. You can also put your question on the chat box. Anshika Yadav has a question. You can proceed. Anshika, am I audible to you? Her question is how to establish legal aid in university.
Okay, so देखिए legal services rules के अंदर every university should have a legal aid clinic. So it's already a requirement. आई एम प्रीटी श्योर कि कुछ ना कुछ फंड्स भी एलोकेटेड होते हैं यूनिवर्सिटी. अगर आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी लॉ पढ़ा रही है तो लीगल एड के लिए कुछ फंड्स एलोकेटेड होते हैं. यू कैन सिंपली गो टॉक टू द हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट, यू कैन टॉक इन द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, यू कैन टॉक टू द रजिस्ट्रार एंड अंडरस्टैंड कि लीगल एड के फंड्स कहाँ हैं, आप इसे कैसे एस्टैब्लिश कर सकते हैं. सी अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स आई वेंट टू अ नेशनल यूनिवर्सिटी जहाँ लीगल एड क्लिनिक थी, तो मुझे सिर्फ उसे आगे बढ़ाने का काम था. बट अंडरस्टैंड कि मेरे से 10 साल पहले जो लोग थे उन्होंने वो क्लिनिक एस्टैब्लिश की थी, और आज भी जितने नई नई यूनिवर्सिटीज बन रही हैं वो भी क्लिनिक्स एस्टैब्लिश कर रही हैं. All you have to do is talk to the authorities, tell them, ask them कि सर ये legal service rules हैं, legal service clinic rules हैं. You go, in fact, I would recommend all of you go and read the legal services clinic rules, and you will get to know your rights to have a legal services clinic and your rights to serve in them. So read this law, take a printout of it, go to your registrar and say sir हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी में क्यों नहीं है. आपको थोड़ा उनको फॉलो अप करना पड़ेगा, बट ट्रस्ट मी यूनिवर्सिटीज वांट टू डू इट. उनके पास बैंडविड्थ नहीं, वो सोचते टीचर्स को करना पड़ेगा. कुछ नहीं करना टीचर्स को, सिर्फ बच्चों को करना पड़ेगा. यू जस्ट गो, इफ यू आर पैशनेट यू फॉलो अप. नोबडी इज गोइंग टू से बेटा लीगल एड मत करो. कोई दुनिया में नहीं है जो बोलेगा लीगल एड मत करो. आप पैशनेट हो वो आपको करने देंगे. You just have to take an effort to establish it. Take a printout, go approach these people.
Thank you, sir. Naki Abbas, if I'm pronouncing your name right, you can go ahead with the question.
Thank you. Yeah, this is right. First of all, I will like to thank sir for this amazing session. The question I have is that I myself from Lucknow, and I want to work with district legal aid services like DLSA in Kasarbagh. So how do I connect with them? Should I send a direct email, or should I have to be a member in my legal aid society in college, or I can just directly go into office and say like I want to help or something? I'm the first year law student. Thank you.
You're a first year law student, right? So the legal services rules do not allow you to officially be a PLV trainee. So you cannot approach the legal aids, the district office directly. They'll say that approach is through the university. But what you can do is you can connect with the legal aid cell and you can tell them कि आप मेरे को जो PLV ट्रेनिंग हो रही है, आप मेरे को इसके साथ-साथ आप मुझे बैठने दो. And हमारे कॉलेज में क्या होता था, PLV trainees essentially are only from second and third year, PLVs are from fourth and fifth year. But we also intook first years because if people first years are already very enthusiastic. Like I see Naki bhai, you also are, right? So you simply go to the legal society of your university, you go to the legal society of a university, you tell them that I want to work with them, and आपको डायरेक्टली डीएलएसए से एंगेज करने का मौका नहीं मिलेगा. पर जब एक बार आप ट्रेनी बन जाओगे सेकंड थर्ड ईयर में और आप इनिशिएटिव्स लोगे, जैसे लीगल एग्जाम्स लोगे या फिर प्रिजन विजिट्स अगर आपको करनी है करोगे, या फिर कोई भी फंड अगर आप डीएलएसए से मांगोगे, जैसे डीएलएसए सपोज टू गिव प्रिंटर्स, बेयर एक्ट्स, ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स टू द लीगल सर्विसेज क्लिनिक इन योर यूनिवर्सिटीज. सो इन दोज वेज यू विल गेट टू एंगेज विद देम. I would suggest you use this time to the best of your abilities to learn, connect with people, make sure the legal society of your university as well as the teachers who are associated with it know that you're very passionate about it, and I'm sure in the second and subsequent years you will do wonderfully well.
Thank you so much.
So we also have a lot of questions in the chat box. How can we establish oneself for pro bono schemes? That's one of the questions.
Right. So the pro bono club scheme is a Ministry of Law and Justice scheme. You cannot do it yourself, but you can make sure that your university follows it. आप बेसिकली क्या करो, आप पहले पता करो आपके कॉलेज में प्रो बोनो क्लब है कि नहीं है. मोस्ट लाइकली अगर आप पूछ रहे हो तो लेट्स अज्यूम नहीं होगा, तो आप कुछ मत करो. आप बस वो जो प्रो बोनो क्लब का स्कीम का जो ऑफिशियल प्रपोजल है, you take that official proposal printout. It's there on the Ministry of Law and Justice website. You just go on Google, type MOLJ, which is Law and Justice Ministry, type MOLJ Pro Bono Scheme Law Schools, and you just type that out. And आप उसको प्रिंट आउट निकाल लोगे उस प्रपोजल का, उसको अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी के अथॉरिटी के पास लेके जाओ, रजिस्ट्रार सर के पास या किसी के पास, मैम के पास, एंड से कि सर इसको हम अप्लाई करवाना चाहते हैं. इनफैक्ट आई वुड से वीसी सर के पास भी, वीसी जो वाइस चांसलर मैम सर हैं उनके पास भी चले. एंड when they'll get to know कि 1 लाख रुपए की फंडिंग सीधा मिनिस्ट्री से आएगी और उनको खुद से पैसे नहीं देने पड़ेंगे, उनको एक प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी, वो तुरंत एस्टैब्लिश कर देंगे. ये तो मैंने अपने एक्सपीरियंस में देखा है. The moment the funding is coming, they'll establish it easily. You can't be a pro bono scheme person yourself, but you can make sure that the university establishes this scheme. And essentially you can also call people up at the MOLJ. देखिए मिनिस्ट्रीज में कॉल करके कुछ खराब नहीं है, इन लोगों के नंबर्स पड़े होते हैं वेबसाइट्स पे. फॉर पीपल लाइक अस टू कॉल, वी आर जस्ट एप्रिहेंसिव ऑफ कॉलिंग. भाई वो हमारे लिए ही बैठे हैं, आप उन्हें कॉल करिए, बोलिए कि हम अपने कॉलेज में ये स्टार्ट करवाना चाहते हैं. 99% of the times they'll be very responsive to you. They'll send you the proposal themselves. You take that proposal, you take that to the registrar, you say ki sir, somebody from the MOLJ also wants to speak with you, here is the proposal, and after that the scheme will be established. जहाँ पैसे आ रहे हैं वो कर देंगे, and after that you can become a member through whatever process your university follows. One more thing, every law school की जो भी reports हैं pro bono scheme के, वो सब पड़े हुए हैं आपके वेबसाइट पे. MOLJ की वेबसाइट पे periodically अपडेट होता रहता है कि कौन से लॉ स्कूल्स क्या कर रहे हैं लॉ एंड जस्टिस के लिए विद इन द pro bono scheme. अगर किसी ने कैंप लगाया है, अगर किसी ने कोई सेशन लिया है, so all of that is updated along with images, so you can go there. It's a good look.
Thank you, sir. So another question that is in the chat box is that as a first year student, are they eligible to do internships and programs that you have talked about in the session? And also, what are the skills that they should develop in order to adapt to the skills that you have mentioned?
Yes, first yes, you are eligible to intern anywhere that you want. बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं फर्स्ट ईयर में सिर्फ एनजीओस के साथ इंटर्न करो, बट ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है. अगर आप, मैं अपने फर्स्ट ईयर में आई इंटर्न विद द नेशनल कमीशन फॉर डिस्प्यूट्स रिड्यूसल, नेशनल डिस्प्यूट्स रिड्यूसल कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया, और अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस था. कुछ लोग डायरेक्टली लॉयर्स के साथ भी इंटर्न करते हैं. अगर आपको विधि के साथ, जो पॉलिसी थिंक टैंक्स हैं, विधि के साथ, पीआरएस के साथ करना है, यू कैन एब्सोल्युटली डू इट. दे टेक आउट अ प्रॉपर इंटर्नशिप प्रोसीजर, सो यू कैन एब्सोल्युटली अप्लाई. Secondly, what skills they should develop? देखिए, वन आई बिलीव कम्युनिकेशन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्किल. सो अगर वो फील्ड फेसिंग वर्क है और अगर आप उस तरह का काम, देखो अगर आप रिसर्च करना चाहते हो तो पीआरएस एंड विधि आर ग्रेट प्लेसेस. इफ यू वांट टू वर्क इन द फील्ड, देन वर्क विद सम एनजीओस हु डू लीगल एड वर्क. इफ यू supposedly work with the district legal services authority, अगर आप उनके साथ या state legal services authority के साथ इंटर्न करते हो और वो उस पीरियड में कोई कैंप्स लगाते हैं, so that's also a great opportunity. If they develop communication, they develop some legal reasoning. आप अगर फर्स्ट ईयर में हो तो आई अज्यूम आपको बहुत सारा लॉ नहीं आता होगा, पर आपको लोग समझ आते होंगे। अब मैं आपको एग्ज़ाम्पल देता हूँ, जब हम गाँव में लीगल एड करने जाते थे, तो वहाँ के लोग बिल्कुल अलग से हिंदी बोलते हैं और ये बिल्कुल लखनऊ के आस-पास की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, जो हम शहरों में नहीं बोलते, पर उनकी भाषा में उनसे बात करना। जैसे फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल जब हम मेंस्ट्रुएशन या पीरियड्स के अराउंड अवेयरनेस करवाने जाते थे, तो मेकिंग श्योर दैट ओनली अ वुमेन मेंबर ऑफ द कमिटी इज़ टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट एंड अगर हम डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस की बात कर रहे हैं, तो वुमेन मेंबर्स आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट। दीज़ आर सॉफ्ट स्किल्स दैट यू लर्न और अगर आप ये सब ऑब्ज़र्व करके सीखोगे, तो आप ऑटोमैटिकली जब आप अपने 3rd, 4th ईयर में जाओगे, तो यू विल बी बेटर एट डूइंग दीज़ थिंग्स। तो अभी आप जाओ, ऑब्ज़र्व करो एंड येस यू कैन डेफिनिटली इंटर।
Thank you, sir. We have another uh, question. The person has asked that being a law student, how can we bring a change for certain marginalized communities, as laws, rights, and duties are there, but having a social acceptance for laws is a different case. As alone legal aspects cannot bring a change, it's the social aspects which we need the most to bring a progressive change. So, what social and legal measures can be taken for the social acceptance or a change in people's mind? Or how can we use law in a wise way for the betterment of people?
अच्छा क्वेश्चन है। मैं आपको एग्ज़ाम्पल से समझाने की कोशिश करता हूँ। अगेन आई गो बैक टू द लीगल एड कैंप्स दैट वी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड। तो अगर आप किसी भी गाँव में कुछ बड़ा कर रहे हो, तो आपको वहाँ के प्रधान जो पंचायत है, उनका सपोर्ट चाहिए होता है। ये सब मुझे नहीं पता था, मैं भी शहरों में ही बड़ा हूँ, बट आई लर्न्ड ऑल ऑफ दिस। तो हमने ये इंश्योर किया कि जो प्रधान होते थे, उनसे हमें सपोर्ट होता कि हमें लैंड मिल जाए, हमें बिजली मिल जाए, हम लोगों को बता पाएँ ये हो रहा है। बट एट द सेम टाइम जब हम आउटरीच करते थे, इन टर्म्स ऑफ रीचिंग आउट टू पीपल एंड टेलिंग देम कि देखो भाई लीगल एड कैंप है इस तारीख को आप ज़रूर आना। तब हम ये इंश्योर करते थे कि जो प्रधान के लोग हैं वो हमारे साथ ना हो। क्योंकि अगर प्रधान के लोग हमारे साथ होते, वो पॉलिटिकल इवेंट जैसा हो जाता एंड पीपल हू डिड नॉट लाइक द प्रधान वुड नॉट कम। पीपल हू लाइक द प्रधान वुड से प्रधान जी का इवेंट है। हम उसे न्यूट्रल इवेंट की तरह प्रेज़ेंट करना चाहते थे। सो दिस इज़ एन एग्जांपल ऑफ हाउ यू यूज़ सोशल क्यूज़ इन अ लीगल सेटिंग। आप जो कह रहे हो कि लॉज़ के सोशल डायमेंशंस होते हैं, पर हम अभी जिस पोज़ीशन पे हैं, हम वो लॉ नहीं चेंज कर सकते ना, मैं पार्लियामेंट में तो बैठा नहीं हूँ। व्हाट आई कैन डू इज़ मेक श्योर दैट दैट लॉ इज़ बेस्ट यूज्ड फॉर द मार्जिनलाइज्ड सेक्शंस। प्रॉब्लम आधी से ज़्यादा तो ये कि मार्जिनलाइज्ड सेक्शंस को पता ही नहीं है कि उनके पास ये लॉज़ के राइट्स हैं। फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल अगर आप जाओगे लखनऊ के इंटीरियर्स में, जैसे हमने लखनऊ के इंटीरियर्स में देखा था, तो अभी भी जो सो कॉल्ड लोअर कास्ट हैं, जो दलित भाई हैं हमारे, दलित बहनें हैं, वो अभी भी गाँव के बाहर एरिया में रहते हैं। और जब तक स्वच्छ भारत अभियान के अंडर वहाँ पे टॉयलेट्स नहीं लगे थे, दे डिड नॉट इवन हैव टॉयलेट्स देयर। वो तो अब लगे हैं, अदरवाइज़ उन सबको खुले में जाना पड़ता था। और अगर वो कभी शहर के अंदर आते थे, तो उनके वो गालियाँ देते थे लोग। अब उनको ये पता ही नहीं था कि एससी-एसटी एक्ट या इस तरह के प्रोविजन्स एक्सिस्ट करते हैं, जहाँ पर उनको गाली देने के लिए सिर्फ़ जेल टर्म्स हैं। उनके साथ कुछ आप मिसबिहेव करो, इसी के लिए जेल टर्म्स है, बिकॉज़ गवर्नमेंट बहुत प्रोटेक्टिव है हमारे मार्जिनलाइज्ड सेक्शंस के लिए, होनी भी चाहिए, राइटफुली है। पर उनको अवेयरनेस ही नहीं है। तो आप अवेयरनेस करो, अपने हिसाब से सोशल क्यूज़ फॉलो करो एंड लेटर एंड होपफुली यू विल रीच अ पोज़ीशन वेयर यू कैन यूज़ द लॉ डायरेक्टली एंड चेंज इट होपफुली भाई।
Thank you, sir. So, another question that we have is how can we write these articles that you have talked in the session and where can they be found and published?
हाउ कैन वी राइट से पहले आप पढ़ो इनको, हाउ कैन वी रीड दीज़ आर्टिकल्स, राइट? सो रीड अ लॉट ऑफ दीज़ आर्टिकल्स फर्स्ट, दैट्स वेरी इंपोर्टेंट। यू कैन आपको जो वेबसाइट अच्छी लगे यार, आपको क्विंट अच्छा लगे क्विंट पढ़ो, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस पढ़ो, जो भी आपको अच्छा लगे पढ़ो, बट मेक श्योर कि आप लाइव लॉ, अगेन लाइव लॉ इज़ अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल, रीड लाइव लॉ, रीड बार एंड बेंच, यू सी व्हाट पीपल आर राइटिंग, उससे आपको आइडिया लगेगा। फिर आप जिस चीज़ के लिए पैशनेट हो उसके बारे में उसी फॉर्मेट में आप लिखिए। इनकी ईमेल आईडीज़ कहाँ मिलती हैं? तो ऑनलाइन इनकी वेबसाइट्स पे मिल जाती है। क्विंट की ईमेल आईडी भी इनकी वेबसाइट पे है, लंदन स्कूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स की भी वेबसाइट पे है, लाइव लॉ और बार एंड बेंच की भी इनकी वेबसाइट पे है। और नहीं मिले तो मेरे को लिंक्डइन पे टेक्स्ट कर देना, मैं दे दूँगा। डोंट वरी। You write well, first you read things. Email IDs you don't have to worry. All of them are already on their portals.
Okay, sir. So another question is, as a second year student, can a person organize a committee which provides legal aid services and organize this every month?
Yes, why not? See, the reason that I'm saying ki organize it through your university इज बिकॉज आप यूनिवर्सिटी के थ्रू करोगे तो आप डीएलएसए से रिकॉग्नाइज हो जाओगे और आपको फंडिंग मिलेगी. बट इफ यू डोंट कॉल इट अ लीगल एड कमिटी और यू डोंट कॉल इट अ लीगल सर्विसेज क्लिनिक, जो ऑफिशियल गवर्नमेंट नेम्स है, अगर आप उसकी जगह उसका नाम दे दो लीगल सर्विस सोसाइटी, लीगल सहायता सोसाइटी, खड़े कर दो कॉलेज में, कोई नहीं रोक रहा आपको, फिर कराइए जितने कैंप्स आपको कराने हैं. आप फिर यूनिवर्सिटी का लोगो यूज नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि वो यूनिवर्सिटी का इवेंट नहीं है, बट आप लॉ स्टूडेंट हो और आपके तो सेम पावर्स है ना, आपके पावर्स थोड़ी इससे कम हो जाते हैं. आप लिख के दीजिए लीगल, वो एक तरह का एक शॉर्ट सेमी फॉर्मल नॉन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, मतलब एक सोसाइटी की तरह फंक्शन करेगा कॉलेज में, और आप भेजिए लेटर्स. सी ये सिमिलर है, आपके कॉलेज में कोई सोसाइटी होगी, मान लो आर्बिट्रेशन सोसाइटी है, वो किसी स्पीकर को इनवाइट करती है. अब आर्बिट्रेशन सोसाइटी को कितनी फंडिंग मिलती है कि वो एक स्पीकर को बुलाएं, अगर वो वेबिनार करा रहे तो वेबिनार की कोई फंडिंग भी नहीं लगती होगी, और अगर ऑफिशियली बुला रहे तो उनको ट्रांसपोर्ट दे दें. इसी तरह से आप फंक्शन कर सकते हो. मैं आपको लीगल एड कमेटी फॉर्मली स्टैब्लिश करने को बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि एक हायरार्की हो जाती है, तो डीएलएसए के साथ रिकॉग्निशन हो जाता है, एंड इट्स अ लॉन्ग थिंग. इवन आफ्टर यू प्रोसीड, अच्छा काम जो आपने किया ना वो चलता रहेगा, आपके जूनियर्स करेंगे, आप अपने जूनियर्स को मेंटोर कर सकते हो. अब मैं फर्स्ट से फिफ्थ ईयर तक लीगल एड कमेटी का पार्ट था, फर्स्ट सेकंड ईयर तक सीख रहा था, फोर्थ फिफ्थ ईयर तक आई बिकेम द कन्वीनर, आई वाज एबल टू मेंटोर माय जूनियर्स फॉर द नेक्स्ट कैंप, कि अगला कैंप वो और अच्छे हो, राइट. सो दैट्स व्हाई आई एम सेइंग कि हैव अ फॉर्मल स्ट्रक्चर, अदरवाइज वी वांट टू ऑर्गेनाइज देम, वी कैन ऑर्गेनाइज ऑल ऑफ देम. आल्सो आई एम सीइंग कि लिंक्डइन आईडी दे दीजिए, लिंक्डइन आईडी इस पे डली हुई है, आई थिंक आप बस मेरा नाम टाइप करोगे वनज विद्यान एंड यू विल फाइंड मी ऑन लिंक्डइन. इज द सेम linkedin.com/Vanaj Vidyan. It's just my name. Same on Instagram. Like all my social media, it's just my name.
So one last question that is there in the chat box.
Yes.
It's for the people who will be joining law school now and have completed class 12 recently. For remaining months before going to law school, what skills should we work upon? Also, any internship or training that can be done by us.
No, if you're not joined law school already, please don't fret about internships. Have fun. Please have fun. Law school is very hectic. बहुत सारा पढ़ना भी पड़ता है. तो अभी अगर आप लॉ स्कूल में नहीं पहुंचे हो तो लॉ स्कूल पहुंचने के पहले ये सब करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. प्लीज हैव फन बिफोर यू एंटर. इट विल बी मोर फन आफ्टर यू एंटर. What skills can you develop? I would say have develop the skill of having fun यार, मतलब genuinely if you're asking this, मैं तो 12th में ये सेशन भी नहीं देखता. You're already very motivated. Trust me, you'll do well. Don't worry. Just work on your communication. I think communication is extremely important. मैं जहाँ भी हूँ, जो भी हूँ, अपनी communication की वजह से ही हूँ. तो make sure you work well. You don't be afraid to speak. डरो मत किसी से बात करने में. आप लॉ करोगे, आपको किसी से भी बात कर रहे हो, आप सही बात कर रहे हो. That's all. Just be very hungry. That's it यार. Be very hungry. Be very curious. मेक श्योर आपको कुछ बदलना है. मैंने बोला था ना, चलता है चलता रहेगा, हम क्यों पढ़े, वो माइंडसेट के साथ हम कभी ना हम डेवलप कर पाएंगे ना देश डेवलप कर पाएगा. सो मेक श्योर यू हैव अ हंगर टू चेंज थिंग्स एंड यू विल बी ओके, ट्रस्ट मी.
So we have one last question that has just come up.
ओके, प्लीज क्विकली.
Are there short-term volunteering projects like legal awareness campaigns that first-year students can join during the semester breaks?
Short-term volunteering projects that legal awareness campaigns that first year students can join. Yes, yes, so many of them. There's a very good option. First year में हमारे कॉलेज में तो नालसा जो है, नेशनल लीगल सर्विसेज अथॉरिटी, everybody, a lot of people wanted to intern with NALSA. If you're in your first year, make sure you apply for NALSA well within time. NALSA का अच्छी बात ये है कि one, you get to visit prisons with them. Two, it's a very formal internship procedure, so everybody gets to do it. And thirdly, and very importantly, फाइनल रिपोर्ट आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज जो नालसा के पेट्रन इन चीफ है उनके सामने प्रेजेंट करते हो. ऑलरेडी इन योर फर्स्ट ईयर यू विल बी इंटरेक्टिंग विद द सुप्रीम कोर्ट जज. सो डेफिनेटली नालसा इज अ वेरी गुड शॉर्ट टर्म इंटर्नशिप प्रोग्राम. प्लीज अपीयर फॉर दैट.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the conclusion of our webinar today. I trust you all found the session as informative and engaging as I did. We've had the privilege of delving into the multifaceted journey of young lawyers from the foundational principles of our Constitution to the dynamic realities of the courtroom. Mr. Vidyan's insights have provided us with a valuable roadmap highlighting the challenges, the opportunities, and the profound responsibilities that comes with shaping justice. On behalf of the Uttar Pradesh Legal Rights Consortium, I extend our sincere gratitude to Mr. Vidyan for sharing his expertise and inspiring us with his passion. His dedication to law, youth, and leadership is truly commendable. Thank you all also to all the attendees for your active participation and insightful questions. Your engagement has enriched our discussion and contributed to the success of this webinar. We hope that the knowledge and perspectives gained today will empower you in your own pursuit of justice. Remember, the journey from constitution to courtroom is not just a professional path, it's a commitment to upholding the rule of law and serving the greater good. I would like to once again remind all the attendees to fill the feedback form. Please stay connected with the UPLRC for future events and initiatives. We are committed to fostering dialogue and empowering the legal community. Thank you once again and have a wonderful evening.